Hello everyone. I warmly welcome you all to Small Talk with the Etsy Collective. Small Talk is an initiative to bring you closer to the change makers, industry veterans, and Etsy sellers and give you an opportunity to listen to their thoughts, ideas, and find some inspiration that we all need. I'm really happy to share with all of you that Etsy Collective completed 2 years anniversary milestone last month. Thank you so much for coming along with us in this journey. Your love and enthusiasm is what keeps us going, and we look forward to many more milestones with you. To celebrate this, we have a short video to show all of you. Hope you enjoy. Hope you enjoyed the video. Now I would like to introduce you to the team of the Etsy Collective who are present here. First up, we have Sunanda Krishna. She is the PR and marketing lead for Etsy in India. Etsy Collective is a passion project for her, and she's been here with us start from the starting, and she never gets tired of speaking about it. And she has been a constant support for this. So I welcome you, Sunanda, ma'am. Then we have Anisha here, who is part of the seller success team, and she will be helping us in answering a lot of Etsy related questions in the second half of the session. And so make sure you, whatever questions you have for us, Anisha will be here to answer all of them. And finally, I'm Radhika Agrawal. I'm part of the PR and marketing team, and I'll be your host this evening. And not to forget, we also have a very special guest with us, Ninoshka from Ninoshka India on Etsy. She will be talking a lot about zero waste clothing. Ninoshka's product started with an aim to create social improvement and environmental awareness through zero waste fashion, and her brand has successfully encompassed all the values in vision. So we welcome you, Ninoshka. So with that, I would like to let you know the agenda for today's session. So first we have a little bit of introduction about Etsy, who we are and what we do. Then we have a fireside conversation with our seller where Noshka will be talking about her journey on Etsy and her journey of her brand. Then she'll share design lessons in zero waste fashion. So where she'll give a lot of tips how she started her brand and how you can do it too. And then finally, we have a Q&A segment with the audience where all the questions that you put down in the chat box will be answered in this section. So stay tuned for that. So with that, let me start out by letting you know what is Etsy. Etsy is a global marketplace for handmade and unique products. We provide creative entrepreneurs a platform to showcase their work to people from more than 80 countries in the world. We are the only marketplace which focuses on creative entrepreneurs, and we help our community of sellers turn their idea into successful businesses. Our platform connects to sellers and buyers looking for an alternative of something special with a human touch for those moments that deserve imagination. To give you a little stats about Etsy, we connect millions of buyers and sellers from nearly every country in the world. Currently, we have 2.8 million active sellers selling over more than 66 million products to over 46 million active buyers. In the time when automation is increasing so much, Etsy's mission is to keep the human connection in the heart of commerce. That's why we've built a community that lives and thrives because it is empowered by people like yourselves. A little about Etsy's green footprint. In 2018, Etsy became the first e-commerce platform to offset all the carbon emissions from shipping. For every item shipped in our marketplace, Etsy automatically invests in an environmental project to offset these emissions. Since then, we've offset over 173,000 metric tons of CO2, equivalent to 20,000 homes energy use for a year, or charging 22 billion smartphones. It's not just us as a company who feel responsible for the carbon footprint. 90% of our buyers say that environmental sustainability is very important to them. Which brings me to a very important part of the three categories of goods that you can sell on Etsy. First one being the handmade category. As the name suggests, anything that you make or design on your own comes under this category. And this is the biggest category of the sale on Etsy. Then comes the vintage category, which is very unique to Etsy. So anything that is 20 years old or older in its product age comes under this category. And finally, it's the craft supplies category. Anything that you utilize to make a complete product. For instance, you're into making gemstones, printed fabrics, which are then utilized to finish a product, is the craft supplies category. Little trivia about Etsy is built to encourage entrepreneurship. You might find it interesting that 95% of our sellers work out of their homes. 53% of total sellers sold their first goods on Etsy. 83% of sellers on Etsy are also women, and 90% of sellers are businesses of one. There is a reason that entrepreneurs pick Etsy, because we believe entrepreneurship is a journey that one takes on themselves. That's why all the decisions regarding the shop should be made by you, starting from the price of the product that you want to charge for your product, to shop policy, shipment, refunds, returns, all of them. We also have a lot of seller services and tools to help you start, manage, and scale your business. A little bit about Etsy's background. Etsy was founded back in 2005, and our headquarters is in Brooklyn, New York. We started our corporate office in New Delhi, and since then we've tried to engage with the creative community in India, and Etsy Collective as an event is a result of that. Through this, we would like to build a community of artistic individuals who are curious about Etsy as a platform and want to explore it. Now we have completed hundreds of these events, and these are all the places in India that we've done our offline events in. And to give you a little insight of how an offline event looks like, I'll be sharing a small video with all of you. Hope you enjoy this.
I think Etsy was one of the first steps I took, which brought my passion out of just being a passion and into something which could give me, actual money. The ease with which anybody today can take any skill they have and monetize that and turn it into a brand, which is amazing. It means that anybody who has a skill can make it more than just a hobby.
We're not just about selling. Etsy is really about building a community of creative people. And what we've done in India is, since last year, is that we try through the Etsy Collective to meet with different creative people in different parts of the country. So far we've done about 32 collectives. Almost all the bigger cities we've covered, and now we aim to go to the smaller cities and interact with creative people.
It was great, quite informative. It was worth it.
It's always good to be around Etsy people and the entire communities.
People are very welcoming, and this workshop, everything was good.
Hope you all enjoyed this video, which brings me to the next segment of our session, a conversation with Nunoshka. I welcome you, Nunoshka, in the Etsy Collective. We also have Ashley, who's also her husband and also handles the administration for her brand, Nunoshka India. We welcome both of you.
Thank you, Radhika and Team Etsy for having us today. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here, actually.
Thank you so much for being part of the session. So, with that, I would like to ask a couple of questions to you before we dig into the design lessons. So, can you tell us a little bit about your design background and what was the education that you took in design before starting this brand?
Um, I've I've done my soon after my 10th standard. Actually, I started with a design course right from uh, I did my 2+3+2. So I've done my graduation in fashion as well as I've done my master's in it. And yeah, so I've got seven. How many years is that? Yeah, 7 years of education, and then I've got another 10 years of work experience. I started off in an export house working for fast fashion brands, and uh, followed by which after my masters I did I worked as a designer at Melange, which is a fashion house in Mumbai. So that was luxury retail. So I have got a bit of fast fashion experience as well as luxury um, experience in the luxury fashion. And I used to travel a lot, work with artisans and all. And I think that's what excited me the most. And that's why I realized that with slow fashion and, hand crafted items and handcrafted fashion and fabrics and all, that excites me most. And I wanted to do something in this area.
Wow, that's amazing. And you actually briefly answered my next question, which is about how did you come up with the idea of starting Ninoshka India and what inspired you?
Um, I got married in 2011 and I came back to Goa. I was born and brought up in Goa, but I was out of Goa for many years because of education and work and everything. So when I came back, I decided to start my eponymous label. That's when I started Ninoshka. And it was, it was, entirely sustainable fashion brand. But I started small. It's only about in 2016 that I won the national award for best menswear in my work with handloom that was recognized, and that's when I think that helped the whole brand take off, and I was able to expand. So yeah, since then I've been fully focusing on this, and
No,
you
no,
know,
perfect. That's a really nice story. So, why did you choose to sell online and on Etsy out of all the options? And how has your Etsy experience been?
Uh, when I started with shops, retail shops and a couple of online stores and all. But I realized that at that point of time, my product was mainly, in different parts of India. And I realized that appreciation for my work comes mostly from people outside India. So Etsy gave me that platform. And one of the best things I like about working with Etsy is that there's a direct connect with the customer, so which I didn't get anywhere else with any other online platform. So and I'm able to tell my story. I'm able to connect with the customer directly. I know what they want. It's a direct feedback which I didn't even get from retail stores before. So now I know what I'm doing, which direction I'm going. So I like that about Etsy.
That's amazing.
And also I'd like to mention I like the community spirit that Etsy has. That's really something something I can't explain. It's really great the kind of help that you get from other sellers, from the community in as a whole. It's amazing. The Etsy community as a whole is amazing.
That's really nice to hear. Also, as you're living in Goa, we do have a very strong community of Etsy in Goa, which is led by a lot of captains. So it's really nice that you're part of that community and you get to learn from each other on a regular basis. So
Yeah, that's true.
my next question is about what does it mean to run a fashion brand with a conscience, and what are the materials and techniques that you
Um, See, having a fashion brand with a conscience is not just one thing. It's many things. It's not only the material that you use, it's also how you use your resources as a whole, be it material or your human resources, how you treat the people who are working with you, how you treat your team, whether the people you're working for, are they getting fair wages, are they getting paid on time, are you employing child labor or not? You know, all these kind of things also matter into having an ethical brand, a brand with a conscience. Other than that, of course, there's materials, which I will be talking, I'll elaborate more on that in my presentation today.
Yeah, so I think you can, if you would like to show us the presentation further to this question, it would be great.
Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, so when I started Nanoshka, I came up with this tagline that said passion with a conscience. So this is a little bit about me actually. If you see this picture, you can see a little bit of me, a relaxed person in Goa. So yeah, basically my designs are pretty relaxed, and it's not something, I look at comfort when I design, the main thing that I do. As far as my design silhouettes are concerned. Now, as I spoke about material, one of the things we do is we work with natural and organic fabrics. We believe very strongly that what comes from the earth should go back to the earth. So we work with natural fabrics, that is cottons, linens, silks as well. When I say cotton, we don't always work with organic cotton, but we try to, mostly we do. And silks also we have worked with in the past. It's a very small portion of silks that I work with. But what I do is we work with Ahimsa silk. That is, it's a non-violent silk. Usually when silk is, you get silk from cocoons, and the silkworm is boiled in water and it dies. So in Ahimsa silk, that doesn't happen. The silk is extracted after the worm leaves the cocoon. So that we work with that silk. And yeah, so basically we work with these fabrics because we believe at the end of its life cycle, if this fabric end up in a landfill, it should go back to the earth. It should, the earth should be able, it doesn't harm the earth basically. So that's one part of our sustainability. And I work mainly with handloom fabrics. As I mentioned, the award that I won was for my work with handloom fabrics. And we've been tied up with India Handloom brand since 2017. So the fabrics that we work with, they have got a very stringent criteria that we need to follow, you know. The kind of fabrics that we get have to be from certified weavers who are certified with them. The dyes have to be azo-free, the non-harmful dyes. Then they shouldn't bleed, they shouldn't run or be harmful to the skin. Then it should be export quality fabric. So all these things, and we have to strictly adhere to this. So that way, everything, we make sure that the quality is maintained. And there are quarterly checks. The guys from the textile ministry come here to our studio and they check the fabric, they check the work that we're doing. So we make sure that we maintain the quality very strictly. This is we've got this registration. If you can see, this is our registration number. It's GA 0012017. That is, it looks like a car registration number. But we are the only people in Goa, as far as I know, that's registered with India Handloom brand. And yeah, so we have to maintain these standards, so to say. So yeah, handloom is one of the things I work with. I like working with hand-spun, hand-woven fabrics. I like working with Chanderi cotton and silk. I like working with ikats a lot. These are some of the handloom fabrics I like to work with a lot. Then yeah, another important part of our sustainable brand is that we use natural dyes. So again, like I said in the beginning, that the fabric, the cotton fabric, once it goes into the earth, it should, it should not harm the earth. So that even the dyes that go into the earth should not harm the earth. Similarly, the dyes that we use on our body, it can seep into our skin, so that makes a big impact. So as far as possible, we use natural dyes. I'm not saying we do it every time, but I would say about 80% of the dyes that we use are natural dyes. So I've worked with pomegranate, marigold, the flower, coconut, onion, rose petals. The model is wearing a marigold dyed dress here, and it's a shibori dress. And so actually it's just prompting me from the background. He's telling me the model is a family member. She's his niece actually. But one thing about me is that I don't really believe in, the tall, slim, professional models. I believe that my clothes should fit everyone and everyone should be able to wear my clothes. So I've never really had a professional model model my clothes. So it's always been some family members or someone who's model. So that's a fun trivia. One of the major dyes that I work with is indigo dyes. Out of all the natural dyes that I work with, I think indigo is about 90% of what I work with is indigo. So and by the way, this shirt that you see on the model here is one of our best-selling shirts on Etsy. This is the indigo fabric. Mostly what we do is we do yarn dyeing. Just to make it interesting, I've got a short video to show you of the indigo dyeing process. So here you have Mara. He's from Meghalaya, and he's doing the indigo dye. And normally what we do is we do the yarn dye. What you can see in the picture is the yarn that has been dyed and it's drying in the sun. But here he's just for the demo, he's doing a fabric dye. The yarn dye is much better, it's more even. The more baths that you get, the more baths, many times that is dipped into indigo dye, the darker, the richer, the deeper the color is. So indigo is my favorite color because I think it's a very soothing and cooling, calming color.
Also, I think it's very versatile and you can play around with so many silhouettes, and it looks good in styles, I think. Yeah, it's got a lot of medicinal effects as well. One of the things is it acts as a sunscreen. It protects your skin from the sun, apparently. So that's one. But it has other medicinal effects as well. But I personally like it because of the calming effect that it has. And I guess a lot of people around the world like this color a lot. I think that's why our shirt sells so well, our indigo shirt. So the more number of times he dips this, the darker the color will get. One of our philosophies, our main key philosophies, is to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So when we design, when I make my designs, I think of ways how to reduce resources, be it the garment, how to wear it in multiple ways. So here, a lot of my designs have can be worn, inside out. They can be they are reversible, or they can be worn in multiple ways. So as you can see, this is the same garment that is worn on both ways. You can see this is one side, and then you flip it over and you can wear it in another style. So the reason why I designed this way is because I think generally I feel that we need to minimalize. I live a very minimalistic lifestyle. So you can have a lot of fun with the little that you have. Yeah. This kind of garments are also very convenient for people who travel a lot.
They can have one garment packet in a bag and have a couple of different styles that they can play around over a period of time. So that is one idea behind it. So another idea behind it is to have less wastage. And this particular garment has been dyed with discarded flowers and fruits from temples. So that's again coming from the recycle philosophy. So yeah, that's how we use the reduce, reuse, recycle philosophy into our product. We use eco-friendly accessories. Here you can see we use a lot of shell buttons, coconut shell buttons, and yeah, that's because I'd like to have a little part of Goa in my garment. So the seashells and the coconut shells represent a little bit of Goa there. And we've got terracotta beads which are produced here. It's designed and it's made here in our very own village. It's designed by me here. It's manufactured here in our village. So we've done a little bit of employment here to local artisans as well. So yeah, these are some of the eco-friendly accessories that we use. Then we do a lot of upcycling of fashion. You may not notice it, but these garments here that you can see are actually made out of leftover fabrics. So there are bits and pieces that are left after production that are patched together and pieced together, designed and made. So some of them are limited edition pieces. We get only a few designs out of it, but I try to make as many designs, as many products as possible with whatever is left over. I try not to waste as far as possible. And even after using whatever fabrics we can to make a garment, there's still some left over. So that is when we patch them together. We make something, and we've come up with something known as the Zero Waste Project. So these are all products here. It's not necessarily fashion. Like you can see, we've designed cushion covers. There are patchwork bags. Then toys that we've designed. And this is a potli necklace that we have. This is made out of small potlis of leftover fabric that we've got. Even the fillings in the potlis is out of the waste. And this bag is made out of thread. Actually, it's not just fabric, but even the thread that is usually discarded that remains, even that is we try to utilize. And we've made these bags that have become pretty popular now. So the bags are out of leftover fabrics, and we've made a lot of face masks as well. So there are a lot of face masks that we made out of these fabrics, and that's what we are also doing now. Is we're giving away a face mask with every garment that we sell. So yeah, so matching face masks out of leftover fabrics as well.
I just want to order from Etsy now. Your anything from your brand. Amazing.
Yeah. So that's how we utilize whatever we have. Try not to waste. Try to use everything that we've got, and do it the best. So that's it.
Wow.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks once again for allowing me to present this. And please do visit our store at ninoshkaindia.etsy.com. And to the audience, thank you for being part of today's talk. Please visit us and do follow us on social media at Ninoshka India. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing such beautiful presentation with so much of thought. You make each and every product, and as you know, as you said that, all the pieces that you design and make a lot of them are one of a kind because you make it out of scrap pieces. And I can literally imagine your workshop having no scrap pieces, but you making products out of all the leftover thread that you have. And it's amazing that you've made that necklace, designed that necklace in a way that it utilizes the small swatches that must have left while cutting the fabrics. So that's a great tip for, I think, audience also who are planning to open their own brand for sustainable fashion. So thank you so much for sharing all this information. This brings me to the next question, which is actually for people who want to start a clothing brand of their own. Can you share some of your lessons, how they can start the brand with minimum waste, and how do they utilize in the best way possible for starters?
How to start with minimal waste.
So basically just so that they can start a brand and so that there is not a lot of waste that is made while they're making those clothes.
See, one of the things is cutting the silhouettes play an important role. What kind of silhouettes you're using. There are a lot of designers who cut their garment in such a way that there's nothing left over when you cut the garment. So if you're a design student or if you're a designer, then that's one way of thinking of it, how to cut the garment so that there's no waste left over. And I guess, I think I've spoken about it mostly in my presentation, what we can do with, how to minimize the waste. That's
correct. Yeah, so actually my next question is about what are some of the tips that you sort of, if you want to give it to all the people who are there, how to live a sustainable life in general, apart from, running a fashion brand. Are there any, things that you do that makes you live a sustainable life so that people can also learn from you and understand how they can contribute to the environment in the smallest way possible?
I think to begin with, you have to be mindful from the very start. It's something that was imbibed in me by my parents. Everything that we do, don't be wasteful. Don't, there are a lot of people who don't have enough. When you've got, you shouldn't be wasting it. So things like we don't waste water or electricity. I even tell my team, they have also become very mindful now. Then the segregation of waste. At our place, we've got 6 different types of segregation. So segregation of waste is one thing. Then one thing that I follow is that wherever possible, I try to avoid using vehicles that use up fossil fuels. So it's mostly walking or cycling for me. That also keeps me fit. And there's, like when you go out, carry your own bag for shopping, carry your own bottle. That's something that was a habit that was my mom got me into as a kid. And that's something my kids do right now. My son doesn't leave the house without his water bottle. So then things like, even for my baby, I use cloth diapers instead of the disposable ones, things like that. Then I like I spoke in my presentation, living minimalistically and buying only what you need rather than, just everything. Buy what you need and be mindful of what you purchase, what you buy. So that's something. Before I purchase something, I always think, will this impact people? Will this impact the earth? Will this impact the environment in any way? Everything from the packaging and, so I guess, be mindful when you're making your purchases.
That's amazing to know. And I'm sure a lot of people really have taken tips from you to actually just in general lead a sustainable life, because this is when we have to start and contribute the environment now, and we shouldn't wait for the time when there is no other option. So thank you so much for sharing these tips. So also my final question to you is, do you have any advice for people who are planning to start their own Etsy shop? What should they need to pay attention to?
If you're if you're trying to start your Etsy shop, that's your plan. First thing is believe in your product. if you're passionate about your product, it will show through and through it, and you'll do well. One of the things is try to tell your story in the pictures. So I think pictures play a very important role in when you list your product on Etsy, and it can tell your story. Just the pictures can tell your story, and it can draw the customer towards you. So that would be my main advice, to concentrate on the pictures that you put up.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing those tips. Also, before I move on to anything else, there are a lot of people who are saying that they love your presentation and they love the thought process that you have for making your products, and each and every product is made with so much love. So it will take too long for me to mention each and every comment, but people are really appreciating your presentation.
Thank you.
So, and we also have a lot of questions coming in. So, which brings me to the next segment of audience questions. So, first question we have. So, while you were mentioning about the Ahimsa silk, Ritika from the audience would like to ask, from where did you source the piece silk that you had mentioned?
The piece silk, I had I used to travel a lot before I got married. So I had picked it up on one of my tours where I used to go to different states across India, and that's where I had picked up some of the Ahimsa silk. I think I can't remember where, but I did. It was one of my journeys.
So next up, the question we have is from Komal, that when should a brand be applying for a handloom registration? Would be great if you could elaborate on that.
I'm sorry, when a
brand should be applying for the handloom registration?
Okay, the kind I have, that is. Yeah, if you're working with handlooms, then it makes sense to apply for a handloom registration. It just gives you that extra, the confidence in your buyer. Like every garment that we have has a label. Every India Handloom brand garment that we make, it has a label with our registration number. So what happens is the customer can always go back and check the site, and they can always backtrack on whether you're registered and what kind of fabrics you used, whether it's good enough, and of course that if there are complaints and all, we also need to be extra careful with all that. So it just gives a little more authenticity to your product, basically.
Thank you for sharing that. Next question we have is from Kanika, that if you yarn dye, do you then weave it into fabric, or what is the process of yarn dyeing?
It's yarn dyeing. It's first the yarn is dyed and then it's woven. So yeah, so if it's thicker, then the yarn is tied first, then dyed, and then it's woven. So you get the ikat effect.
Okay. Next question we have is from Gurvinder, who is, first of all, he said that so glad that he could be part of this beautiful group. He loved your presentation as well. He was mentioning, as a designer, I want to know if you do consider fashion forecast while coming with new collections. If yes, how do you research for that?
I don't do forecasting. My styles are usually classic styles, because I think what I design the person who wears it should be able to wear it for a very long time. It shouldn't be restricted to a certain season or a certain year, or so I really don't believe in the whole concept of forecast and being stuck to a certain color or a certain style. And then what happens is, even for the customer is restricted to using it for a very short period of time. So since mine is a slow fashion brand, mine are classic styles, something you can wear over and over again. And since I'm working with natural dyes, my color palette is also very it's more of earthy tones and nature tones. So I don't stick to the colors that might be in the forecast now. So I don't really follow forecast, and I do it consciously. I don't want to, I don't want to be stuck in that whole forecast and limit myself to it and limit my design to it.
Correct. I think it totally makes sense because when you're running a sustainable brand, the name suggests that you want it to last for a longer time,
Yeah.
rather than just focusing on the color of the year or the shape of the year or trend.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great thought in that sense. We also have a question from Inakshi, who's about how did you manage the finances initially while you started the business?
I think this is something that Ashley would like to take because he's the guy who normally, when it comes to the finance and all, I'm the creative person. Ashley is the guy who runs the whole admin part. He does the finances. So he takes care of that. So I think Ashley would be a better person to take this question.
Hi, Ashley. Do you want me to repeat the question for you? You're on mute, Ashley.
Sorry. So I'm actually sitting directly opposite Meenakshi, so that's the reason I'm muted myself. But yeah, I heard the question, and just to answer that, initially as a start, it was difficult because we had to. I had a little with me savings lined up, no doubt, since after we got married to start up something. But it was a little hard, and that is where the government came into handy, and we actually applied to the government for a loan. And being a women entrepreneur, it was they had just started off with that loan segment. But when we applied for a loan, they just, I very clearly remember this. Normally, the whole process used to take about 6 to 8 months for a loan to get sanctioned. But they just saw our philosophy, they saw that we had something, and they said this has never been tried before in Goa. And they were skeptical at first. But then the moment they saw that, Inoshta had just won the award, they said, okay, fine, we'll get behind you all guys and we'll submit you all. And I think we were just blessed that the government straight away sanctioned off the loans. We initially started off with, I think we gave us about 5 to 6 lakhs or something, but that was more than enough to start off, just start off with a small workshop and go ahead, build up from there.
Okay. Wow, that's actually a great story. So another question is about how did you set up a manufacturing unit initially for a person who wants to start? So what do they need to pay attention to while setting up manufacturing?
My manufacturing unit is actually a part of our house itself. So I actually work from home. We've got a ground plus one. It's an old Goan house that we have, and the upper floor was not really utilized. So we just put up a couple of machines here, like Ashley mentioned. We took a loan. We put up a machine. We put up our machines and all. And one of the main things when you're starting a unit is, I think, your team. You need to have a solid team. So more than any equipment or anything, if you have a good team, you can do anything. If you have a supportive team, which I do, and I'm very grateful for that. I have an excellent team who has grown with me. So I guess if you're starting a manufacturing unit, first pay attention to your team before you do anything else.
Okay, that's a great advice. Also, before I move on to a couple of questions with Anisha, there is one more question that a lot of people are asking about. Does the natural dye, that all the natural dyes do you use, how do you sort of do color fastness in those, and do they have a chance of fading away over time?
Natural dyes do fade over time, especially on cotton. That's one part. That's one thing about natural dyes is it does fade. It depends on how you maintain it. If it's constantly exposed to the sun and all, yes, it will definitely fade faster. It is color fast. So fabrics the dyes that we use are color fast. Having said that, the dyes on silks are much richer than the colors are much richer and brighter than what's come out on cotton.
Okay. So do you also put some kind of maintenance and those notes in while you're shipping out your products?
Yes, we do. We give a full wash care on how to maintain it. So generally for natural dyes, you just need to wash it in a pH neutral soap. So it's easily available in the market. Your liquid detergent, you can just wash it in that.
Okay. Okay, so Ninoshka, I'll be asking a couple of questions to Anisha now. So over to you, Anisha. First question we have is, a lot of people in general are asking about what is the process of opening an Etsy shop. So can you brief them a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's actually quite easy to open up a shop on Etsy. So all you need is you need your identification card, you need an ID card, you need an email address, you need an international debit or credit card, and you need, of course, you need photographs of your listings, you need your products, and that's all you need to start an Etsy shop. So it's very simple. You can just go on Etsy.com, sign into your Etsy shop. Sign in and log in with your credentials. From there, it's just 4 or 5 steps. I think one is name your shop. Then, of course, you add your listings, you set up your billing and payment section, and I think you're good to go. You can, yeah, that's all.
Thank you so much, Anisha. Next question we have is from Harita, who's asking, can you share a couple of tips about how you can advertise your products on Etsy? Is there a way to promote your products as well?
Yes, so when you come on Etsy, Etsy actually provides you with a lot of options to advertise your product. But before you advertise any of your products on Etsy, it's important to optimize your shop. The more optimized your shop will be, the higher, the greater result you will be able to achieve from those ads that you run. But some of the the kind of advertisements that we offer happen to be Etsy ads. These are ads that you can run within Etsy. Then there are offsite ads, which are actually called risk-free advertisements as well, wherein you don't pay the upfront cost of advertising. Etsy pays that for you, and you only pay when you make a sale. And other than that, of course, there's social media. You can promote your products on social media via Etsy. And lastly, of course, sales and coupons. You can run a sale on your Etsy shop. You can create coupons to target like a certain audience. So these are just some of the examples.
Okay, thank you so much. Also, just for audience understanding, could you also elaborate a little bit on what is optimization for them?
Yeah, so optimization means all the things that you can potentially do or add so that you're able to improve your performance on Etsy or improve your visibility on the platform. So first thing is, try and add as many listings as possible. Other than that, you have to fill in details such as your banner image, logo image, small details such as shop story about your shop member section, fill in your shop policies, and optimize your listings as well. So it's equally important to optimize your listings, which means use descriptive titles, add as many photographs as possible. You can add as many as 10. Write relevant descriptions, given as much detail as you can about your product. And of course, other than that, what Etsy offers you to write are tags. Tags happen to be very important on Etsy. They act as keywords. Again, use descriptive words to describe your product in tags. When you do all of this, that's what makes your shop more optimized. Fill in more details, use descriptive words. The more optimized your shop will be, the higher chance you will stand of appearing in the search of the buyer.
Okay, thank you for sharing that information. Also, before I move on to a couple of questions with Ninoshka, a few questions are actually about shipping. So about whether Etsy provides shipping to the sellers, and also what is the commission that Etsy charges on the products.
So Etsy takes a 5% fee of your sale price. That's the price that we take, the commission fee. And as far as shipping is concerned, as of now, Etsy does not offer shipping. What right now we do is we let our sellers choose their shipping vendor. You can work out your shipping prices with them. You can work out your logistics with them. But as of now, Etsy has not introduced shipping for sellers.
Okay, thank you, Anisha. A couple of questions for you, Ninoshka, before we close the session is about what is the mantra of creating good quality products is what one of our attendees are asking. So what are the steps that one should be taking to ensure great quality for the products and it reflects in their garments?
I think you should see. For me, I personally monitor each and everything that comes out from production. Also, I am very particular about quality and finishing, and so now it's passed on to the team. So they are also very particular. We do quality checks. We test our garments before we send it across. So we make sure fabrics are often washed before they are produced. So small things like this that matter, and we make sure that we give the best quality to our customer.
Okay. We also have another question about the affordability factor for person with a not a lot of income, whether they can also afford sustainable fashion in near future, because currently it is very expensive for them. So when will the sustainable fashion be very affordable for masses? Question.
When you say sustainable fashion, there are a lot of aspects to sustainability. It's not just see, when you come, one of the things of sustainability is handcrafted items. That's when you're supporting an artisan, when you're supporting a craft. That might that will always be expensive because it's ultimately a hand job. It's a handcraft. So it's something you're paying for a craft. You're paying for an art. So you shouldn't be thinking as I'm paying for a product. You should be thinking that you're paying for a craft. You're paying for the hours that person has put into it. There are other aspects of sustainability, like you have upcycled garments and all. That is something that can be pretty affordable. That's something you can make yourself as well. So when you say sustainable fashion, it's not just it's not just something that you put in a box. It's a lot of things that come under sustainable fashion. So it's how you take it, how you look at it.
Another question we have from Deepthi here is, how do you decide the pricing of the products while you're shipping abroad, outside of India?
Okay, I think Ashley would be a better person to, how do you price the product when you're shipping outside India?
We used to ship with India Post and we used to use their services, but unfortunately once the lockdown started, of course we couldn't do that. So what we did then was we signed up with DHL and we are shipping through them. And the good thing about shipping through a provider like DHL or any other provider in the market like FedEx and all this, they provide you with set rates. So you already know what your shipping cost will be like for different countries. Like in the case of US, it's 500 grams, how much it will cost, or things like that. So generally that cost of shipping is inbuilt into the price of the product. We already know that this much is allocated towards shipping. And therefore when somebody buys the product, we can sell it across to them and ship it across as well faster.
Correct. Okay, thank you so much for sharing that information. And Ninoshka, one question I have for you is actually an interesting one, is about how vegan products and sustainable products are they similar, or what is the difference between them?
So yeah, we are not doing vegan products per se, but there are brands who are doing vegan. So I guess vegan is with no animal products, with no animal anything to do with animals at all. Again, there's some crafts that also utilize things like coloring in milk and things like that. So that wouldn't be considered vegan. So yeah, there is a difference actually. So what I'm doing is not vegan. It's not totally vegan.
Okay, so also we have one person in the audience who's saying that she would love to do internship with you, and is asking whether you provide internships at Ninoshka India or not.
Yeah, we do. We do have interns.
Okay, so probably if Ashley can put down an email address, then Arya can reach out to you for an internship.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I think we do have some time to take one more question. So let me take one last question. Is about how do you reduce waste while packaging and delivery? How do you utilize that waste while you're shipping out products to the audience?
First of all, we avoid using plastics altogether. So we don't. Our packaging is entirely out of paper. We wrap the garment and all in paper. Even the tapes that we use to stick and all is we use the washi tape. We use the paper-based tape. We don't use plastic tape. And yeah, so basically that's no plastics. We have a no plastics policy in our packaging. Then that is packed in a DHL box and it's sent across. I make sure I add a personal note to the customer. So I handwrite it myself and I make sure, so there's a direct connect with the customer and yeah, so I make sure I send out a shout out to the customer.
Wow, that's really sweet. So I think with that, we are at the end of our session. So thank you so much, everybody, for being part of this session. And thank you so much, Ninoshka, for answering the questions in the most beautiful way. And I'm sure the audience really enjoyed this session. They had a lot of questions. In case some of the questions weren't answered in terms of Etsy, then please feel free to reach out to us at tara@etsy.com. Once again, thank you so much, audience, for tuning in for this session. Don't forget to check out all the social media handles that I mentioned here. And thank you so much, Ashley, as well as Ninoshka, for providing us amazing tips, sharing your knowledge with us, with the audience. So thank you for being part. And also Anisha for answering all the Etsy related questions. Make sure to tune in for the next Saturday session, which is with Sujata Biswas and Tanya Biswas, who are a sister duo who will talk about how to weave your brand story. And the session before that is also with B.P. Doshi, who's a Pritzker award-winning architect who will share his incredible journey. So make sure you sign up for all those sessions as well. Thank you so much for being part of this session and hope you have a wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you.